You're listening to the Strong Athlete Life Podcast.
And we're live. Welcome back, Strong Athlete Life Podcast, boys. How's it going today?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good, thank you. Coach Oscar, how's it going?
I'm good.
Good. We were just having some entertaining banter right before we hit play, and we're trying to just get our faces straight right now.
Weird energy.
Yeah, good times though. All right, so today we're going to talk about supplements. So a couple episodes ago we talked about training to build muscle. Last episode we talked about eating and nutrition to build muscle. So we figure we'll cap it off today with supplements and supplements to build muscle, because it's definitely a hot topic. We get asked questions all the time for as long as you've been doing this. You know, what supplements should I take? What's the supplement for me to take? What can I take? Like, you just get that constantly, right? What can I take?
Green coffee bean extract.
Basically, right?
Turn off the podcast.
So, yeah, basically, that's all you need. Green coffee bean extract. So, just a little history. Coach PK and I actually met many eons ago, working for a supplement company, which was one of the leading supplement companies in the world for sports at the time. Still one of the big players. So we were in that game for quite some time. We have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge in that game. So we're going to kind of share some of that today based on our experience and history. And then we're also going to get into kind of, before we got into that, kind of our own history, all three of us, of like, what's the first supplement you took? What's the promise? What was that promise, so to speak? What did you get out of it? And kind of how your own supplementation experience went from there. I think that's a fun way to start the show. So I'm going to start with Coach Oscar.
Which supplement I took?
Can you remember like the first supplement you ever took? And just to be clear, we're not talking like Flintstone vitamins, you know.
I still take those.
I know you do. I know you do.
I feel amazing.
In the jelly format. The gummies.
Chewables.
So not like that, but like supplements that promise something for you. Can you remember?
Because yours was so long ago.
Yeah.
Protein powder was the first one.
Do you remember the specific one?
Yeah, it was muscle milk.
Okay.
Mainly because it tastes delicious.
Right.
And at that point, I didn't look at what was in stuff, and I was just like, "This just tastes amazing. It's supposed to help me build muscle. Let's just drink it."
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me how
It
that
also hurt your stomach quite a bit.
Oh yeah. Do you remember how that experience was of like? Because I really remember like things in detail. I know Coach PK does too. Us older guys, you know, we have a mind for memory.
Mm-hmm.
You young guys just no attention span. You just glaze
Did
over
you guys
it,
just
right?
blend tuna and eggs and drink that?
That was on our last show. But like, do you remember like that whole experience? Like, did someone recommend it to you? Did you read it in a magazine?
Right.
Did you go to the store and the salesperson like? I want to know what that experience.
I for
was.
sure read it in a magazine.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really have like friends that trained. I didn't really have friends that trained, so I didn't really get that information from there. But yeah, I must have seen it in a magazine or something, or some professional athlete that I was like, oh, okay, that's the guy.
Yeah. So endorsement.
Using it, yeah. So might have been like a football player or something.
Yeah.
And you think that muscle milk's gonna help you get that big, which it didn't.
Run a 4.4.
It didn't help me.
Yeah,
I did.
Bench
The
press.
conclusion is it didn't help me.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the story.
How long did you take? Did you try like
A long time until for some reason I think they switched like the marketing. They changed something.
Yeah.
Oh, they went more mainstream,
Maybe, but they changed something so it was unavailable for a bit, and then I had to go. Then I went more with like getting more for less.
Yeah.
And I don't even know the brand name, but it came in one of those big tubs that people buy paint in.
Yeah.
With the plastic lid.
The bucket.
In the bucket. And yeah, that was pretty much it. I don't even know the name of it. And now, obviously, I use better stuff.
Yeah, which we'll get into. We'll get into that.
Yeah. That's pretty much the only supplement I use at the beginning.
So, I love like picking the brain on things like this. So you were taking muscle milk. You said you bought numerous bottles.
Yeah.
And like,
How old are you at this time?
Late teens, maybe 19,
Yeah.
18.
so like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
So like at no point,
Don't hate.
I'm not hating. I'm jealous. So there was no point like this isn't working, but I'm gonna keep buying it because eventually it's gonna work. Like, can you remember? I know it was a long time ago, but can you remember
Well,
that?
it wasn't that long ago, but
Right.
but it was more so like I'm supposed to be taking this.
Yeah, like it's a given because I'm training, right?
Yeah, like A plus B
Yeah.
is C. Like you want to be a certain way. This is the formula to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Via the information that I took in at the time.
Right.
And then I also took Purple K, which was the creatine, I think, right?
Yeah.
Fusion.
Fusion, yeah.
Yeah.
I took that.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't really notice anything. But,
Oscar is young.
yeah, man.
Man,
Yeah,
like,
you're young.
Fusion, like, that's a couple
Yeah,
years ago.
A couple of years ago.
Wow, good for you, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
That's your main
that's my-
introduction. Coach, what was your introduction?
My introduction was Joe Weider, and before Purple K, and before Muscle Milk, and before Muscle Tech, and before EAS, there was Joe Weider, and Joe Weider had the line of supplements at the time, and he had these chewable aminos, and the actual name escapes me, but he had a Victory line, I think it was called. He had Victory Mass, Victory Cuts.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
And so he had these chewable aminos, and I bought them from. There was no GNC yet.
It was a guy behind the gym.
No, there's a health food store
You
in
know what it's
Scarborough, in Wexford,
Yeah.
at Warden and Lawrence.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Nobody.
I know
it's
the
not
spot.
familiar, but you would know the spot.
Yeah.
And there's just an independent health food store, and I had seen it taking the bus, and so I was like, I'm going to stop there
Yeah.
because they will have what I need. And so I'm sure I saw it in a magazine, the brand, for sure I did, but I'm not sure that they had that exact product
Right.
at the store. They had a product that was from Joe Weider, which was these chewable, it might have been like 2 grams of protein per
Serving.
5 tablets.
Yeah.
And had this chalky, milkish taste, and that was the first thing I bought, and I truly thought that was the savior. I thought that was going to be the thing that took me from, let's say I was 115 pounds at the time to 120.
You were that thin?
This is 14, so I don't know.
yeah.
It might have been maybe bigger than that, but not much heavier. Yeah. This is
Okay,
going
no,
back.
no.
No, I'm thinking when. So this is 1989. This is how long ago that is,
Wow.
right?
I was 2 years old.
Were you even born yet?
Just barely, obviously.
Yeah. So that was the first product.
So what did it transition? What I want to hear is like that's the first one, and what are like the 3 evolutions from that, if you can remember?
And then I remember a really good friend who lived on my street pooled his money and got Cybergenics.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so Cybergenics predates, again, Muscle Tech, EAS, all the big players. It was like one of the first, at least that I remember, transformation type products, right? So they had these pills, and they had this kit basically of products, none of which worked. But they had these incredible before and after photos, right? Like they took the art of before and after transformations to another level.
Are you guys going to talk about how that's done?
Well, we can dive into that, but their key spokesperson was a pro bodybuilder named Franco Santoriello, and the kids reading the magazine had no idea that he was this pro bodybuilder. They just saw this off-season guy who looked fat and out of shape, who transformed into a superhero, and we bought the whole concept, hook, line, and sinker, and I remember the workouts were incredibly tough, and if you could sustain the workouts themselves, you'd get a result. Forget about what was in the product. There was really nothing in the product. It was just these placebo pills and this insane workout that was like the second thing that I got. That was my next foray into supplements after Joe Weider.
So an important thing I don't want to skip over before we go to your third generation here, your third evolution, is in our episode we talked about training to build muscle. One of the key points that you mentioned was kind of like the intensity of the effort that you put in for your workout and how that is a determining factor of the results you're going to get. I.e., like, you and Oscar could do the exact same training program, and Oscar could get incredible results, and you could get zero results doing the same program. And it also just depends on what kind of energy and intensity are you putting into each one of those workouts. So with that cybergenics,
that's why I'm grateful for cybergenics,
right.
Because going through that workout, prior to that we were using the magazines. We used a book called Getting Stronger that I mentioned in previous podcasts to kind of guide us. But the intensity with this workout, a lot of forced reps, a lot of negatives, a lot of drop sets, a lot of supersets, a lot of intensity techniques that we had never done before. And that shifted my mindset. And I was able to recognize, this is how hard you have to work if you want to get results. And that kind of guided me, forward, even though, the products may not have done anything, but that shift in mindset that I have to credit that brand to has been very important for the rest of my career, right?
Yeah, so it's like, so not to undermine the placebo effect, because the placebo effect is effective. So I never want to strip that away and say, well, this product is garbage. It comes down to, like, we always talk about conscious and subconscious mind. Like, if you believe deep down that this product is working for you, then it's working. It's working in a way that might not be on a cellular level, or physiological level, but it's working from a psychological level, which then in turn affects your physiology. And that's a huge thing. So I never want to undermine that or undervalue that. A lot of times, like, when I see people using a product and they're like, what do you think? The first thing, and this is from years of experience, right? There was a point in my life where I'd be like, it's garbage, get rid of it. My question is always like, how do you think it's working for you? Right? Like, how is it working for you? Well, I feel really good when I take it, and as long as it's not toxic, I'm like, cool, keep taking it.
It's hard to talk to you. You just ask questions back.
I know. I'm just
like
give
me a straight answer.
I don't give you straight answers. I just mind mess with you to get the right answer, and somehow you walk away like, huh? Did he just trick me?
Yeah, I feel confident in how that went.
I feel and I'm just smirking, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But that's a huge thing. So you bought the program, but you bought all those crappy supplements, but you bought the program.
Mm-hmm.
And that program in and of itself had huge value. So
because it was unlike anything I had done before. It was much harder, much more intense than anything I had done previously.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing.
Which is going to get you great results. Run yourself into the ground.
Yeah, we got stronger.
Yeah.
We got sick, and didn't get much in the way of muscle growth because we didn't understand the principles we talked about in the last podcast about calories and macros. In that case being number 1 and 2, we didn't understand that, and until we grasped that, we didn't start making any gains in terms of muscle.
Right. Emphasis on recovery, and what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
You don't build muscle when you're training. You building muscle when you're recovering. Hence supplements, which we're obviously talking about today. So, can you remember the third? Because I know you have a great story. So Oscar shut it down at
the three that I'm talking about. The three I'm talking about are not the only supplements I took, but they're the three most important in terms of milestones in my life. So these chewable aminos, I'm like 14, 15, most likely 14. The cybergenics, I'm 16, grade 10, 16 years old. And then you got to fast forward to second year university, track and field. EAS is now the big player in the supplement game, and they have a product called Phosphagen HP, which was creatine.
And
Creatine with carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And I took that, and I got phenomenal strength gains. I had my best track season ever, made all Canadian, and I attribute that supplement along with the training and so on. But I wasn't eating really well because you're in school, and I went away for school, so there's that factor.
Were you just eating cafeteria food?
Cafeteria food, fast food, right? And this was the only supplement that I took, and I made such incredible gains with that product. So I mentioned that as like the thing that impacted me the most, and it tied in with my athletic career at the time, and I really noticed that was the first supplement that I noticed that actually worked.
Right.
Right. Everything prior to that was either placebo effect or no effect.
Zero effect. Placebo effect or zero effect.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. For me personally, it was a little bit like, we're going to talk one day about supplements for like burning fat and stuff like that. We're going to stay at that today, but I have to just say, for me initially, when I was about 12, like I was a chubby kid. I was like chubby. So like for me, I got into it. You had to build muscle, but to lose fat at first. Mm-hmm. So the first supplement I ever really took was Chromium Picolinate. And I remember I used to get the magazines too. There was an ad with a dude, and he was lean, abs, and they had the Chromium Picolinate, and I'm like, that's the answer.
Right.
That's what it's gonna be.
Right.
So I went GNC, got that product, and started running a lot. Because my grade 9 gym teacher, we had gym in French because I was in French immersion. This little French guy, and he was just the running god.
Right.
Like all we did was run. I remember the first class was the mile test. First class. And just come back from summer, right? You're not in shape.
Full of ice cream.
Yeah, and like
That's a soul breaker right there.
at that age,
At that
I didn't
age.
play sports in the summer, right? Because I played school sports. I played hockey in the winter, but in the summer I didn't play anything.
How old?
Like 13, 14, grade 9.
Yeah, 14.
14, right? So first day, run the mile, horrific. It was terrible. Like I don't want to tell you my time, but it was like in the 9s, right? I still remember it. And I'm just like, this is embarrassing. Like I'm out of shape, I'm overweight, and got that chromium. Started running on that track like after school almost every day, like 5 days a week, and started lifting weights, and got like ripped, like, but like scrawny ripped, because like I'm tall guys, you know, and like scrawny but like crazy 6-pack abs.
Yeah.
So like I made it, right? So like the chromium worked. Had nothing with the chromium. I was like running like crazy.
Right.
So then from there it's like, okay, I gotta put on some muscle, because like I look like a rail at this point.
Right.
Like unless I walk around with no shirt off with abs, it's like, hey, that guy, he's got abs, but like with a shirt on, he just looked like a beanpole, right? So the first product that I got was protein. Yeah. And this is when I told you I was training with my sister's boyfriend at the time.
Yes.
Jason Ostegi. And he used to be a manager at Bally's gym. You remember Bally's?
Yeah, at Gordon Park in 404.
So, and I'm underage, right? I'm like 14. He'd sneak me in with him. I trained with him and another one of his buddies, and those guys were big football guys. Right. So they played at, I can't remember what school they played at. I think Guelph they played at. Or Laurier. So they had a training program. I was following their program. You can imagine these two big jack dudes, and then me. Like they put on like on the incline bench. I can still remember. Like they'd have like 2 plates on or 3 plates, and then just strip them off and put like a quarter on for me, and I'd be pressing. But got the Northern Lights.
But credit to them.
Yeah.
For including you, credit to them for working with you. Right?
Absolutely.
And, like they just changed the weights. I mean that's as welcoming as it gets. Right?
Yeah.
In when it comes to that,
it was the most amazing thing, to be honest. If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be doing it. I probably wouldn't be sitting here doing this right now. Yeah. So anyways, Northern Lights.
That was a brand I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
Yes. Protein.
Yeah. Got that protein. Nice and chalky.
Cheap.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. That's the
best thing though.
For a teenage budget like that.
Yeah.
That's
it was on the budget. blending it with orange juice
Okay.
to give you that like orange-sicle.
You have
type.
no idea what these proteins taste like.
Oh
Like,
man.
That sounds like it's
the
grinded up
stuff that you have
seashells.
now
Yeah,
is so gourmet
Oh, I know, yeah.
compared to what was back then.
like the mixability.
I was just listening to a podcast earlier where they were talking about like the first protein powders and how
Yeah.
disgusting
Oh
they
my
were.
God. But we
Yeah.
didn't think anything of it. You
No,
just-
it was
you just
normal. That's
drink
what
it.
was available.
Did you guys ever drink raw eggs?
I did.
I did.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. I still do sometimes. So, anyways, Northern Lights, mix it with orange juice. At the time, you thought it was good. You'd be like, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
And every now and then, we'd throw in, do you remember ABB? American
Yes.
Bodybuilding Products,
Yeah.
basically? They used to make they were the first ones to make
The drinks.
RTDs, like they're ready to drink.
Mhm.
They were in like the cooler. And all like the legit gyms had the big fridge and had all those like recovery drinks. So I'd always seem to get the expired ones because, you know, Jay worked there and they'd give him the expired ones. They're about to expire, right? So like they're still good. Even if they're expired a week later and 2 weeks, they're still fine. Drinking those? Do you ever drink those?
Yeah, the independent gym we worked out of
Yeah.
to start our careers
Yeah.
would still carry them.
Yeah.
And they had this 400 calorie recovery,
Mm.
100 grams of carbs,
Yeah.
400 calories, and you drink that after every workout.
We'd just be down in that.
Phenomenal.
Down in that. And that's when they were good though. When they first started, there was like basically drinking the bucket of chalk out there
Mhm.
with like 5 tablespoons of water trying to mix it in. It's like you sip it and it just clumps. It just
Sludge
clumps in
coming
your
out,
face. So that was like the next thing. And then I went into Twin Lab. Do you remember Twin Lab? They had a product called Amino 1000. And this was when amino acids were like the big thing.
Mm.
It's amino acids are going to get you big. Like you're not getting them all in your protein, and your protein is diluted, so you need a concentrated dose of amino acids. So
It's
there
funny
was
how things go full circle, because now the things that sell currently in 2018, amino acids are the products that sell
right,
the best, along
Right.
with pre-workout products. But
right.
amino acids are right up there again.
So I mean, I'm telling this story too because it gives people an idea that we have been through it. We've seen those cycles. We've been in experience that tried it, and nothing beats having that experience and that wisdom, right? So those Amino 1000 capsules were like as big as my thumb. I don't know if you ever took those or remembered them,
Yeah.
but like I would have to cut them into 4 pieces to swallow them.
Right.
Like it was a mission,
Is it a
right?
meal replacement?
Yeah, basically, and you had to take like 5 to 8 for a serving. And eventually, I got so lazy that I would try to swallow them.
Right.
And like it's trained me over the years. Like I could swallow like
Handful of pills.
a handful of pills now, like no problem, because
Oh, yeah.
of that experience, right?
A couple of quarters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those bottles would
Just
last. Those bottles would last like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and they weren't cheap.
Yeah.
No.
And then nothing, no results, right? So then to bring it to the next level, what got hot at that time was, do you remember Hot Stuff?
Yeah.
So it went from basic proteins to amino acids, concentrated form, and then the next trend was basically kitchen sink formulas.
Yeah. So they put a pixie dust amount
Of everything.
of
Of
100 different
everything,
right.
ingredients that are hot, so they could put it on the label
Right.
and sell it to you. And everyone believed that this is all I need. It's got every single product in one.
Makes sense.
Forget about the fact that 0 of those ingredients were in an efficacious dose.
Yeah.
It just had it on the label, and he thought, this is all I need. I'm going to take this,
Yeah.
and I should see something.
Yeah, Hot Stuff. And that product had every supplement, every ingredient you can think of that had any research or potential research was in it,
Yeah.
including caffeine and other stimulants. So you take this protein and you get all flush and warm, and you're
So
like,
you feel like it's working.
Right.
It's working.
Right.
It's a sensory effect.
Right.
So it took that for a while, but I
What
think
were you
that's
guys
gonna
when I was
go.
19? Gonna save you so much money.
Yeah, you could have called us.
Yeah.
So did the Hot Stuff.
We were at Muscle Tech at that point.
Yeah, we
You
were
were,
working.
you were in the Death Star.
We were working.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were in corporate world. And then Hot Stuff basically got taken off the shelf in Canada for whatever reason because they had ingredients that weren't approved. And then
Was
yeah.
Canada, because Health Canada is pretty strict now.
Yeah.
Were they as strict back then?
Yeah, a lot of, like, the big thing back then was going to the States to get products, because, number one, GNC wasn't here for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had these independent shops
Ma and pa shops.
that were, the main players. So you had to go to Buffalo or wherever to go to a GNC or a vitamin shop to get the real deal.
Right.
Yeah, so Health Canada was always stricter. There were a lot of ingredients that were allowed in the States that weren't, and it's still that way, weren't allowed in Canada.
Yeah. But I'm surprised something like this hot stuff could get out and you could buy it, and then they would.
The thing was, it was at these little ma and pa shops that were probably bringing it in like under the table.
Oh.
Oh, and we're forgetting, and Muscle Mag. Muscle Mag had a location down at Yonge and Wellesley, downtown Toronto, and they'd get an official American product, right?
Okay.
So you could get some stuff,
And then you buy it under the table.
They had
Oh
some
no,
stuff.
they would just
Yeah.
sell it. They'd sell it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They had a few things though under the counter, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Every little
Prescription
store,
only.
things like ephedrine and stuff like that, right? So when hot stuff got pulled, a product called Anabolic Activator came out, and it was basically a ripoff. And that product for me had the most placebo effect. But it's funny how if you just look at timing, that would have been like 3 years into training.
Right.
Yeah, 3 years of weight training and stuff is gonna create a result.
Yeah.
If you're consistent enough, if you're eating enough. And all of a sudden, like, that product comes in at kind of that prime time when I'm actually starting to make some results, gains, and like, of course, it was like the greatest thing ever. Like, that was the product
Yeah.
that pushed me over the top. And I think there was some stuff in there that probably messed me up more than anything,
Right.
but that would have been the product that probably did it.
Right.
And that was through high school. And then coming out of high school, I actually went and worked at Muscle Mag.
Mhm.
At one of the stores. They opened up a store in Scarborough. Biggest mistake they ever made. Because the guys that all worked there pretty much stole half the stuff and sold stuff. And it was so sketchy, but that was like a great time. I was selling supplements. That was when EAS was hot, Muscle Tech was hot, all these products like Dorian Yates approved products, and all of these things. Donovan Bailey had a product. You remember that product? I can't remember the name of it now.
I think it was
but-
under Northern Lights, right?
No, it was a different brand. He was on the product. It was just, we had like every supplement you can imagine.
You don't know whether it was protein or what?
Oh, they had like a protein and
Oh,
a
it was a
recovery
line of
product.
stuff.
Yeah, it was like a
Okay.
line of products.
Yeah. Okay.
The name will come to me later, but yeah, that was basically my journey
Yes.
into the supplement world.
Yes.
And then, ultimately, creatine entered the door, right? And then, the first one I used was EAS. They had a pure, they had the pure phosphagen, not the HP.
Yeah.
So the HP had the carbs in it. But remember back in this, like, if you take creatine with grape juice,
Yes.
that is going to give you the ultimate. That was creatine and grape juice. Yep, that was like how you took it. That was the way to take it, because that's increases, according to them, increases insulin effect, and does all these things, right?
That's right.
However, fructose doesn't even increase insulin in the body, more or less, which is fruit sugar. It's processed differently. So that was a bit of a farce, if you think about it now, right? But that was the only product that, I put on size,
Was
got
that
stronger.
because of marketing?
Yeah.
Or because of research?
Well, it was in the magazines.
The creatine and carbs research, probably funded by the companies, came out. And then that became the norm, right? Like that became the norm. To get the creatine into your muscles, you need a delivery system,
Right.
And the delivery mechanism is these simple carbohydrates
Yeah.
that are going to shuttle the creatine to your muscles.
Yeah.
Right. So without that, you're not getting as much of an effect. Right.
It became like
Well,
the
That seems like a theory that
the
was
law.
created at a restaurant on a napkin.
Yeah.
Possibly. I mean,
there's actual research to
Yeah.
show that an insulin spike will help to drive nutrients to your muscles, but we'll also say that these studies were largely funded by companies, so take them with a grain of salt, right?
yeah, there was like research of like placebo, creatine, and creatine with carbs.
Mm-hmm.
That was the research. And then that research led to tips in the magazine. All the magazines were saying, if you want to take your creatine, take it with this. And then supplement companies eventually said, well, here's our creatine, and now here's our creatine with carbs product, which was Phosphagen. And then, Muscle had Celtec, which was huge product at the time when it came out. That thing, you couldn't keep it on the shelves because it got results. Like, it is legitimately one of those products that people would take and get results. It's high carbohydrates and creatine.
And they had a very simple approach, which was brilliant. At the time, Phosphagen was 5 grams of carbohydrate, 5 grams of creatine, and 35 grams of carbohydrates. And so to create Celtec, they just doubled those numbers. Right? 10 grams of creatine and 70 grams of carbs. Yeah, and the thing just sold like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Is it because everybody looked at the label like, oh, this is double of what this has?
Absolutely.
Go with this one.
More is better.
Yeah,
Of course,
right.
of course.
Yeah.
And then the testimonials, just like you took muscle milk because some football guy was taking it, and the credibility that goes with that, that's still, people still do that. You look at Gatorade commercial, right? All these hockey players and all these guys, people, supplement companies still do that, and that's one of the main ways to sell products.
Yeah.
Is athlete endorsement.
And outrageous promises.
Yeah.
When they're all in the business, just like the cosmetic companies, of selling hope, right? So cosmetics will use a beautiful person and suggest to you that if you use this makeup, you're going to look like that.
Yeah. But if you're ugly, you're going to stay ugly.
And much the same way, if you use this athlete endorsed product, you're going to become like this athlete.
Right.
And the promises and the claims associated with that. For anyone who wants that, their defenses are low.
Right.
Even though if they were to be rational, they could see that this is not true or this is probably misleading, because they want that result so badly. And I was Exhibit A on that.
Yeah.
I bought into all of it.
I'll be Exhibit B on that. And that's why, they say, results will vary, right? Some people fall in this training program, take this product, they're going to get crazy results. We talked about body types before, right? The mesomorph, the endomorph, the ectomorph. Depending on your body type, it's going to depend how you respond to training and food and supplements. So, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of situation.
Did that Donovan Bailey supplement line promise incredible speed, or
It did
No,
not.
I didn't. It
What was
didn't,
their
didn't last
claim?
long.
No, I'm trying to remember. It's
yeah.
going to kill me thinking of the
Yeah.
name of it. But
Yeah.
it's not like New Life, but it was something like that. New Life is another company that's out there right now, but
Was it Perfect Nutrition?
no. It'll come to me. It'll
Oscar,
come.
pass my phone there. We got to research this right now.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
like Rogan does. We got to find out.
Okay, so
Thank you, sir.
I want to go through a couple key supplements and get everyone's opinion on effective or not effective and or why. How does that sound?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll start with you because Coach PK is
I'm listening.
desperately looking.
I gotta know.
He's on Snapchat.
The listeners want this information.
Supplement line. He's looking it up.
what's the first
Okay,
one?
so obviously the first one is protein.
Yeah, effective.
Okay,
It was New Life. No, it wasn't New Life. Yeah, it was New Life.
New Life, right?
New Life. Yeah.
Okay,
Spell how?
NU Life.
but I don't know if that's the same New
Yeah,
Life.
yeah, 1997.
It's the same New Life. It's out now.
Well, I don't know that,
Yeah.
but I would assume.
There's
I
a
would
company
assume
that's
that
spelled the same way.
because
Yeah.
they're spelled the same way.
Yeah. Wow, I found that file. See, New
Yeah.
Life.
Look at that.
Not
Dust
that
that off.
old, right? It's not that much rust.
It's all the
on
bone
it.
broth you've been drinking.
Thanks to Samantha making it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. New Life.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so protein.
Keep this handy.
Effective.
Yes.
So a worthy investment.
If you're training enough.
Okay. So what are your expectations with protein?
What do you mean? What are my
Well,
expectations?
what are someone's expectations if they want to build muscle? So you at 19, 20,
Yeah.
recommending back to yourself.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, that's a better question.
Okay.
No.
So what would you recommend to your? We're talking just protein right now.
Yeah.
Would you recommend protein to yourself
At 19.
Yeah.
No.
Why?
Because I'm not doing all the other stuff correctly anyway. I wasn't training correctly, I wasn't eating correctly, I wasn't sleeping correctly. So if I got all those things in order,
Okay.
I would get significant gains for that time without having to spend money on the protein.
Okay, so let's qualify this because that's key. So let's say now, because we all agree, like someone's like, the first question someone says, what should I take? My first question is, how much sleep do you get? With my mind tricks, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I'm like, how much sleep do you get? Because if you're not investing in that, don't invest in a supplement. And then my second question is, how much are you eating? Well, what do you mean? Right? Ask that question. How often are you training? Get into those questions. So let's say that you at 19 now are, working out regularly, you're doing everything else you can, and now it's like, we want to add that piece in.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for people who think that they're doing at least the bare minimum in all categories and want to level up. Is that fair? Is that clear? Even though
It's an
most
ideal
people
scenario,
are
yeah.
not. So our recommendation, just to be clear, is before you buy any supplement, listen to the previous 2 podcasts that we've done on how to train to build muscle and how to eat to build muscle. And also, we recommend rest and recovery in those here and there, but also sleeping to build muscle. So with that said, let's just talk just products. Okay?
Then yes.
Yes.
Then
Okay.
yes, I would
Okay.
recommend to my old self.
Okay. Any
He
precautions?
kind of forced you into that answer. Eh?
He funneled me into
See how I got him back and forth?
You were coerced into saying, yes, protein's good.
Any precautions?
Yeah, would you say any specifics you would say, yes, I recommend protein or
Yeah.
however.
And make sure it's from a good source, so probably grass-fed or New Zealand whey or some kind of pharmaceutical grade whey, not just I don't want to name any brands.
Yeah, that's not named too much.
Or any of the ones that have been named previously.
Yeah.
You don't want to get sued.
No, but I had one. I remember taking it, and every time I drank it, it made me want to throw up.
Yeah.
But I continued to drink it anyway.
That's probably a bad sign. If you feel like shit when you take one, it's probably not the best
Right.
product.
I would
for you.
get kind of queasy and lightheaded, and I'm like, but I got to power this down. I don't know.
It's gonna work.
It's gonna work. Maybe this is what it's supposed to do.
I had a few of those.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Coach BK, protein.
Protein for sure.
Okay.
For my 19-year-old self, as long as I got the calories right, the protein, which is essentially a food, like a protein powder, I would classify as a food, would help me to get those calories that I needed and to meet my protein requirements. And it didn't really matter if I got that much sleep or did anything else as that young teen.
Yeah.
What you're saying is 100% true. For that teenager, 16 to 20, I'm not recommending this, but the truth is that doesn't matter that much.
Right.
What matters is making sure you eat enough, you eat enough, you get enough protein, and you train hard. Because you can get by with little sleep and just messing up everything else as a teenager, because you're in a very unique period of time in your life where the rules don't always apply. But outside of that, generally sleep is obviously important. When you're in that sweet spot of being a teen with your hormones at that peak level, you can get away with a lot of stuff.
Any precautions?
Choose a reputable brand, especially nowadays. You have a lot more options than we did. I would go with a whey if you tolerate whey, meaning you do not get stomach upset or feel like throwing up, feeling queasy, right? If you can drink it and you feel okay after you drink it, whey would be my first choice. If whey does not agree with you, I would look to maybe a plant-based option as my second option.
Okay. So my recommendation would be really get clear on how much food you're eating and how much protein, and if you are that far off of your protein recommendation, which we kind of threw out there the other day, 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if you're 200 pounds, you want to try to be eating 200 grams of protein. If you're nowhere near there eating your food and you know that you can't bump that up,
And that's going to be everybody.
Yeah.
At that age, because
yeah,
not everybody. Most people at that age are they're going to have a hard time eating. Let's say it's 200 grams of protein from food sources day in and day out. So it's like that insurance policy.
right. And I don't want to I know I said like you're younger, teenage though, but we don't just have teenagers listening to the show, we have adults too. So for everyone, blanket statement, same idea. If you're not getting if you're fairly close to that recommendation, great. If you're way off, then yes, I would recommend one. And precautions, I would say, Oscar mentioned, make sure you find the best quality, grass-fed being the best, organic possibly. The whole New Zealand thing is starting to get a little dicey, and people are starting to abuse that term, in my opinion. A big thing to look out for is artificial sweeteners in your product, so like sucralose, aspartame, any of these artificial sweeteners, I would completely stay away from any product that contains that, because that is going to affect your health, your gut health, more than anything else. If you don't tolerate whey, 9 times out of 10 you have a poor quality product. So try to get the best quality and see if you tolerate it. If you still don't tolerate it, try a whey isolate. There's not a huge difference in the two, but for people that don't tolerate whey, they can usually tolerate an isolate better. And if you can't tolerate that, I'm a fan of like beef protein. So there's like a pure paleo protein out there that I've had good results with, because personally I don't think the plant-based proteins are all that good, and their amino acid profiles aren't that great. And let's be honest, they taste horrible. So the benefits that you get from them, I don't think are that great. That's my recommendation.
We just ruled out all our sponsorships.
Yeah, pretty much. No, we opened the door to a whole bunch. Okay, moving on.
Yes.
Creatine. We're talking about building muscle here, right? Creatine is the one we have to talk about, in my opinion. So, Oscar, have you used creatine?
Well, like I said, Bcaas.
Right, that's right.
The famed Bcaas.
Well, so that's crealkaline.
I don't even know what that was.
Yeah, so it wasn't creatine monohydrate. It was like a
derivative
of creatine.
What did I use?
No, sorry, not a derivative. It's a creatine variation, but not the one that has been studied and researched the most, which is the monohydrate version.
So the other supplement that I used, but it was way more recently. It was I think it was Genuine Health, Bcaas, and creatine. I don't know.
That's a good product.
I don't know what creatine is in there.
That's creatine monohydrate.
Yeah,
that was good results with that.
Yeah.
It definitely got stronger.
Yeah, that's
but that's really my only experience with creatine.
Okay.
But I know Coach Bcaas said, and I'm going to totally steal your answer.
Yeah.
Probably that. Yeah, it's one of the top supplements that you could use for strength gain.
Yeah, and as I was saying earlier, the 1997 Phosphagen HP from EAS, that was creatine monohydrate and carbohydrates, and incredible results then. And every time I use it, I get really good results. It's one of those things that actually works.
So you recommend it?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay, any precautions or anything to look out for?
I would go with a simple monohydrate version. I would because it's so effective. Everybody sells it, and it's become a commodity. And so companies now market products that are creatine based with other things in them, so that they can differentiate themselves. In reality, all you need is the monohydrate, which is at this point the most affordable, and it works. So you don't need to get fancy with anything else. Just look for a monohydrate, which will be the cheapest variation of creatine in the store, and you're good to go.
Okay, my recommendation as well, creatine monohydrate only. Don't get any of these fancy things. And the big thing for me is don't get flavored creatine, because most of those have artificial sweeteners in them. They have junk in them. They're just full of fillers. So you want to stick with just get something pure, no flavor, the basic compound. There's a trademark version called Crea Pure, which is quote unquote the German version, which is apparently still one of the best versions out there. So if you can find that trademark pure one, I know like PVL Essentials has that option. and we've used that one in the past, and we like that one. Just that basic creatine. The big myth, people say, was creatine make you bloated and blah, blah, blah. No, it does not. It does two things. It helps volumize your muscle cell, and it helps increase basically cellular energy to help you lift more.
Define volumize, coach.
Okay, so there's two different types of way you can build muscle, quote unquote. There's hypertrophy, right? And then there's basically hyperplasia. So hypertrophy is taking, let's say you have, I'm going to make up a random number, you have 100 muscle cells at a given point in your body, your bicep, right? That number is nowhere near accurate. And there's two ways you can make your bicep look bigger. You can make the size of each one of those muscle cells bigger so they expand. That's basically volumization. So you increase the size of the cell, basically through liquid. You get more fluid in the cell, more cytoplasm, more nutrients in that cell, and it expands. So creatine, when it draws itself into the cell, it'll pull, call it water or fluid into the cell to help expand it. So that's one way creatine works. That's not going to give you like a bloated, fatty look because it's not putting water under your skin or in your fat cells. It's taking it right into your muscle cells. So if you already, it's going to sound bad, but if you already look fat and you take creatine, yeah, you might look fatter because you're just building muscle or muscles getting bigger underneath your fat. But it's not bloating you or making you watery, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So on the other part, hyperplasia is actually increasing the number of muscle cells. So there has been research on this, and I don't know how accurate it is. I want to go back and reread it because back then it seemed accurate, but I don't know about now. So there was research that said that creatine stimulates satellite cell production. Satellite cells are a key indicator of increasing the number of cells in your body. It's kind of a precursor. So there's a research that says creatine stimulates satellite cell production, which helps lead to increased number of muscle cells. But there's been a lot of debate on whether you can or cannot increase actual number of muscle cells after a certain age. So kind of like that's still unclear. But that's kind of how creatine works. So definitely effective. Definitely works more with some people than other people. Again, like we talked about, body types will determine this, different way you process stuff. And also like cycling it on and off, there's different debates on that. The supplement companies now claim that you do not have to cycle. How convenient, because now you can keep buying it all year round. But my recommendation with anything is you should cycle on and off anything that you're doing. I don't care what it is. You should never take the same protein supplement forever. You should never eat the same foods every day forever, and you should never take creatine ongoing. Go on it for 6 to 10 weeks, for example. Go off of it for 6 to 10 weeks, and play with that cycle to help your body kind of re-stimulate itself. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. Next one we're going to talk about branched chain amino acids, BCAAs. And we'll talk about one more after that because I think these are going to be the big four. So branched chain amino acids.
I've used them. Not my younger self did not use them, as far as I remember. But I used them more recently, and it's good during, especially long sessions, and a good recovery tool as well. Afterwards, in the post workout shake, which is now also questionable.
So say that again. You use it in your post. How do you use it?
I use it during,
Okay.
and then after.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's helped with my recovery. At least I noticed it at first. Maybe not so now. Maybe my memory's not as good. I am getting closer to your age, guys.
You hang out with old guys, you become old.
Yeah. But yeah, now it seems like my recovery is just fine. But back then it seemed like it was actually really helpful. So I don't know.
Okay. I have no clear answer for you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You're still experimenting with it. It's probably a good way to look at it.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Coach.
I use it with a lot of my athletes. I've used it myself. I don't see I don't see as overwhelmingly positive results with branched chains as I did with creatine. For all my athletes that are trying to put on muscle, if their protein requirements are being met, then there's the BCAAs can be optional, right? So for some folks, I'll throw it in there into their intra-workout shake. But again, you got folks doing 250 grams of protein a day. They probably don't need it, but it's more of an insurance policy for some of these folks who are, you know, at the national level, really trying to push the envelope with their growth. For folks that are dieting and trying to get leaner, I find it valuable there to help with recovery, especially because these folks are in a calorie deficit, and there becomes a greater need for it during that phase. But if I had to rank, you know, the three products we've talked about, protein and creatine would definitely be 1A, 1B, and then branch chains kind of are a distant third. So I know there's research. Again, I use them. I use them with my athletes. Haven't seen the results the same way I've seen with protein and creatine. And if you're trying to build muscle, just to recap, if your protein requirements are being met, you probably don't need them.
Okay, so just to be clear for everyone, branch chain amino acids are 3 amino acids. They're leucine, isoleucine, valine, and it's usually in a 2:1:1 ratio from the order I just said. And the idea behind branch chain amino acids is it helps to stimulate protein synthesis. And essentially, protein synthesis is a system that helps your muscle cells essentially rebuild or build themselves another cell, essentially. So like what I talk about hypertrophy, hyperplasia. The idea is when you stimulate protein synthesis, you stimulate the rebuilding process. So when you're lifting weights, for example, you're going to stimulate protein synthesis because now your body's going to have to come back and repair it. So branch chains have been shown in research to stimulate protein synthesis. Okay, so with that being said, now we kind of understand how it works. My recommendation is, generally speaking, I don't think it's worth the investment for most people, but for someone who carries a good amount of muscle, so someone who's like a mesomorph and has a high amount of muscle on their body and they're training hard and they're lifting a lot, I think there is some value to adding those key amino acids into their program. I would recommend it during training only, and that's just going to help to get those amino acids in there more so for the recovery phase. They're not actually helping during that workout, but keeping that protein synthesis going. But especially like people who carry a lot more muscle, generally speaking, or some people might feel sore more often as well. If you find that you're sore a lot and you're not recovering, I would experiment with BCAAs for that person and just see how that helps that recovery process more than anything else. It's a recovery tool in my opinion. Things I would watch out for, again, like I said with the creatine, don't get these fancy quote-unquote souped-up formulas with all these other bullshit ingredients and flavors and all this crap. Just get the basic pure BCAA. You can mix it with something a little flavor, like we'll use like Vega Hydrator, give a little bit of flavor, simple ingredients, helps hydrate you as well while you're training, but make your own. Do not buy these overpriced, blown out of proportion products that promise all this stuff and carry all these terrible artificial sweeteners, which as you can tell, I'm not a fan of at all. Okay, last one I'm going to throw in the mix. This is like a bit, not a curveball, but I think it's an important one to talk about. And that's gainers. So a gainer is basically a product that contains a higher amount of protein and an even higher amount of carbs, ultimately providing a high amount of calories. So what are your thoughts on that? Have you tried it, and do you recommend it?
I've never used it.
Okay.
I was always, like I said, I think in the previous podcast, always in the losing body fat camp based on my body type.
Yeah.
And yeah, from what I know and from what I've heard, just a lot of digestive distress, and it probably has to do with the source as well.
Yeah.
But that's the only feedback I've ever heard on those things.
That's accurate feedback, sir. That feedback is correct. Yeah, I've tried a bunch, and the result has been consistent.
Explosive.
You know, GI distress has been consistent through all of those products. And it's in part because of as Oscar said, the source. There's a lot of simple carbohydrates in there. There's a lot of crappy fats that are in there that wreak havoc with your digestive system, and generally lower quality proteins, because they're trying to pack a lot of stuff into one container. They're playing the calorie game, which is really the battle between those products to outdo each other with more calories, and they put a lot of filler in that stuff. And more often than not, it just won't agree with your stomach. There's a few guys that can deal with that. Usually those are the mesomorphs with the iron stomachs, but who, as I said in the previous podcast, can get away with just about anything. When you're on the ectomorphic side, yes, you have a hard time putting on weight, and oftentimes you have a hard time digesting stuff, and that could be tied to your body type. It's also tied to the sources of foods that you're eating. Then on the endomorphic side, you really have no need for a weight gainer. Just a waste of money there.
So I'm going to kind of mirror what you said and bring out the idea is great, the concept is great of a mass product or a gainer product, but the execution is usually terrible. So it's like you had a great idea, but then they went and screwed it up with the execution. So the idea of high calories, and we talked about in our last show, calories are king. If you want to build muscle, you got to be getting those calories in. Protein and carbs are very important for most people if you want to be building muscle. So like, it all makes sense in theory, but then the problem now comes in making a product that is financially viable for a company. If they fill it with all these great ingredients and great calories, it's going to be really expensive. And to get those calories, that product's going to be gone quick. You're going to basically buy a jug, it's going to be gone in a week if you follow the direction, because the directions are trying to give you, like 500 to 800 calories to 1,000 calories per serving. And then some of them telling you, there are little tricks in there, mix it with milk to add even more protein and even more calories. And it kind of becomes a bit of a nightmare. So again, I like the idea of it, but I still haven't seen a really good execution. I've seen one product that's decent, which I'm not going to name, but the execution is terrible. So a simple way you can do it is, when you have your protein product, is to buy a carb powder, basic carb powder, a maltodextrin carb powder, which is good, non-GMO I recommend, carb powders, and just kind of play with that and bring up the calories and the carbs in your shake using that basic carb product, without getting all the fillers, the questionable ingredients, that's going to basically just make you feel like a big slug, just a big block in your stomach until it comes out one way or another.
Right.
Right? So that's what it's going to want to do. So the idea is good, but the execution is poor. Good?
Good.
All right. I think we're going to cap it off. That's kind of our little show on supplements for building muscle. It's a great show. I had a lot of fun on this show.
That was fun.
It was always entertaining. You can find a lot more information on our website, strong-athlete.com. We have all kinds of, go on our blog, and there's hundreds of articles in there on all kinds of things, training, nutrition, supplements, lots of knowledge out there. You can find us on social media at Strong Athlete. Coach Oscar, where can we hit you up?
You
TravelMovementCollective.ca.
weren't ready.
No, I wasn't.
Three.
You switched the order.
Switched it on you.
Screwed me up. Yeah, TravelMovementCollective.ca.
Awesome.
Get in touch with me there.
Yeah, and go on iTunes, download this show, download the podcast, give us your best 5-star rating, and we're going to keep bringing you awesome shows.
Or we'll force feed you Gainer.
Yeah, we'll force feed you Gainer and tape your mouth closed,
Yeah.
and tape your butt shut, and good luck. I heard that somewhere one time. All right, on that note.
What weird stuff do you watch?
Weird stuff. On that note, we'll be back next week. Thanks, guys.